Let me open our workshop. So, as traditionally, we will start from the message from our former keynote speaker.
Hello and welcome. My name is Heather Allore. I'm a professor of internal medicine and geriatrics at the Yale School of Medicine and also a professor of biostatistics at the Yale School of Public Health. I was last year's keynote speaker, and I'm sorry I can't be with you this year to greet you in person, but I'd like to welcome you and give you a little introduction to what we did last year and also welcome you to the exciting program this year. So welcome to Leveraging Existing Data and Analytic Methods for Health Disparities Research related to aging and Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. I'd like to provide an overview of last year's workshop. We had biologically driven presentations on genes, genetics, biomarkers, and these provided the motivation for the analytic methods and also some of the work on developing therapeutics. As the title of our workshop suggests, leveraging existing data sources were a key component. We had talks about their pros and cons. We heard about challenges and the benefits of harmonization, and we had a very insightful talk about using the minimal data set with Medicare-linked data. We also, of course, had the focus on persons living with dementia and the different settings in which they live, socially, culturally, as well as residentially. These affect the generalizability, both from the data perspective, who's sample, who's included, what are their settings, and also from the analytic approaches, what's important, to whom can the findings apply. For the different analytic methodologies, which of course is the other wing of the overall theme of our presentations, we had new methods to apply to study health disparities and ADRD. A few of the methods were the longitudinal extension of the average attributable fraction, which I shared, the Oaxaca Blinder decomposition to try and account for different sorts of measures of disparity, and also multi-stage duration model for partial observable data. Last year, we also heard about how global communities and the variations within self-reported race and the advantages of performing analyses within race and ethnic groupings. We heard many talks about care partners of persons living with dementia and the settings in which they dwell, whether they're homebound, living in nursing homes, or other sorts of settings. We talked about the definitions of cognition, co-occurring conditions, and how these may differ by the data source, what is recorded, how is it recorded, the frequency in which it's recorded. And we also heard about the need identified by the NIA to have common definitions of multimorbidity. We had talks on cardiometabolic health and how these may differ and be a source of health disparities. We also heard about the interrelationships among multimorbidity, function, and cognition, all priorities for older adults, and how these may differ by race and ethnicity, and again be a source of disparities. We also heard several talks that really helped set what are the priorities, both by the Alzheimer's Association as well as the NIH. We heard about developing relationships and working with stakeholders, volunteers, the communities in which they dwell, both throughout the United States and also globally. And of course, the importance of caregivers and to remember that nothing about us without us. Many of thought leaders, both in the Alzheimer's Association, the NIH, and throughout academia, has shared their views of what may be future directions. So let me welcome you to this year's 2023 workshop. It's a great lineup ahead of you, and I hope you have a wonderful time.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure. On behalf of Igor and Carl, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this 2023 conference. Also to welcome you to this lovely campus for this cool event. Those who are virtual, we hope you can join us next year. Normally for a Duke person, it would be blasphemy to wear a light blue Carolina color, but Duke and UNC are collaborating on an amazing ADRC that I think is going to become the #1 ADRC in the world. And Heather is here, who's the director of the Duke ADRC, so you will hear from her. So this conference actually addresses two perhaps of the most important trends and topics in our field. One is America is becoming more and more diverse. And it's actually the diversity is growing a lot faster than what was projected even by the Census Department. The second is biomedical data is growing at a rate that is much faster than any other data stream. Faster than space, faster than YouTube, faster than Twitter. In fact, genome data alone from Alzheimer's patients is projected to grow a lot faster than data from Twitter or from social media. So it's really vital for us to leverage existing data sets to make sure that that information is not wasted and to develop new sort of tools to analyze that data, because the volume of data is so large and the complexity and the merger of these data sets is so important. I think this conference and the insights from this conference are going to prove very vital. I'm also pleased to announce that the proceedings of last year's conference are about to be published as a featured article, lead authored by Igor in Alzheimer's and Dementia, which is perhaps the leading journal in our field. It's going to come out next month. And we're hoping that perhaps this year's conference and perhaps next year's conference may be combined into another featured article. And this will become sort of a tradition where the progress in this field is going to be outlined in these papers. I think many of you know that a zip code where you live is becoming as important, if not more important, than your genetic code. And the two probably need to be combined. We're going to be hearing a number of presentations at this particular workshop. And one of the areas that's becoming very important is environment. And many of you are familiar with this new index that's been launched by the CDC and ATSDR called the Environmental Justice Index. They've actually characterized all of the counties throughout the United States on more than 30 metrics of environmental pollution, climate change, socioeconomic determinants, etc. So for example, I can pinpoint Durham, which is where we are, and you can click on this Explorer and it'll generate like some 30 different metrics. And all of this can be downloaded in a CSV file or an Excel file and merged with your other kinds of data sets. So it's going to be very important to look at that. I think Julia later today is going to talk about environmental factors. So I want to end with this last slide. You know, the ultimate goal of this conference is to move us from health disparities to health equity. So I really want to urge every one of you in your presentation, not only to present your research findings, but to give us some recommendations for the future. How do we use your data to build towards a more equitable future? So I want to thank you for that and welcome you.
Hello and welcome to Duke, either in person and virtually. And sticking with the ecumenical spirit of this, my name is Don Taylor. I've been a professor at Duke for 26 years, and I have 3 degrees from UNC Chapel Hill. So outside of basketball, things are quite possible between Duke and UNC, and that's to the good of the world. I'm the director of the Social Science Research Institute, and the Baru Group, I'm responsible for seeing to their infrastructure. So when Murali says we need to learn how to leverage these databases in better, and as my Baru colleagues always remind me, faster form, it's always a work in progress, but it's so important. And as we think about the future, as Murali said, joining
joining health disparities. Does that mean that everything I said?
No, it was, but this is gonna boost
Okay.
the audio.
Right.
Please continue.
So, in addition to joining dementia and health disparities, which is looking to the future, we really also are always celebrating the legacy of Baru, which really is half a century of looking at demographic methods using multiple sources and bringing different data sets together. So looking forward to hearing what folks have to say today, and just want to welcome you again.
Okay, all right. Well, good morning. Really excited about this third edition of our NIA funded and Duke University funded Alzheimer's Association sponsored workshop. Carl V. Hill, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer with the Alzheimer's Association. I'm just really happy to arrange and co-lead this workshop with Murali and Heather as a keynote speaker last year, and certainly with my dear colleague, Dr. Igor Akusevich, with Duke University's Biodemography of Aging Research Unit and its Social Science Research Institute. So, today's workshop, represents another attempt, to create momentum dedicated to providing new knowledge on how existing and recently developed analytic methods can be used for detailed population and clinical data analysis. So really excited, because we're looking to make progress in understanding the causes and mechanisms of health-related disparities in Alzheimer's, other dementias, and sometimes other prominent age-related diseases. And so our first workshop held in 21 focused on the analysis of population data, demonstrated how studies using established administrative data resources such as Medicare claims databases combined with complex, well-established methods could really push health disparities research forward. And then our second workshop extended this focus to include an analysis of clinical data sets routinely collected in medical centers, such as the Duke University warehouse there, and demonstrated how these methods can be applied to really conduct rigorous health disparities research. So, this is our third time at it. Excited on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association to partner with my colleagues here. Really excited to focus on these advanced analytic methods today, disparities in treatment and health outcomes, and various perspectives in health disparities research along different levels of analysis on that health disparities research framework, which I think provides so much opportunity, and really looking at the lineup today, a vast representation of researchers and speakers spanning multiple scientific disciplines, various institutions and organizations, and representing states and cities all over the United States. So I'm really excited to hear from my colleagues that I've worked with in other roles, whether it was at the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities, or NIA, Butler Williams Scholars Program, or those that we come across at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. But equally, this opportunity to hear from new speakers as well, gives us new perspective, really on how to link, those environmental factors to biological outcomes, and the roles that sociocultural and behavioral factors can play to create risk, or how they might be malleable targets for intervention. Hence the importance of establishing pathways and mechanisms. Really important for today's work, and challenge our speakers to discuss these mechanisms and pathways. So thanks to all of our speakers, organizers, funders, sponsors, and to you, those that chose to participate and take part in the discussion. All of this inclusion and participation is very much appreciated. And so really excited, and I will pass it back to those that are moderating the discussion, and looking forward to a great discussion today and tomorrow. Thank you.